everyone. Thank you for checking in. Welcome to another segment of Couple Matters. My name is Michelle.
And I am Sam.
I'm a licensed marriage family therapist.
And I am a spiritual and soul coach.
Today we want to talk about conflict. And there is, again, just like with any of the other clips that if you've seen them, each of them can take up a whole long, hours worth. But this one is also kind of like that. But what we want to do is give some 5 pointers about how to do conflict well and what it could look like.
Okay, so the first point that we want to bring up in regards to conflict is to normalize it. It's very important for us to normalize or to know that conflict is just a part of relationships. And even though it just makes sense that it does, there are a lot of us who actually feel like whenever there's conflict that there's something actually wrong with the relationship or that there's something wrong with us personally. And it's not. Normalizing it really allows us to engage the conflict and have deep enough conversations regarding it. And in navigating conflict well, it really gives us those opportunities to really deepen and enrich the relationship.
Yeah, and even if we learn some of these tools that we're talking about today, it's going to be something that continues for the
Absolutely.
rest of our lives, right? And so if you're not having any conflict, and we work with couples who said, we don't ever fight, one of you is lying.
Either that or you are delusional.
It's okay to have
Absolutely.
fights, arguments. We're going to have them. We're 2 different people. Sam and I have disagreements all the time. However, it's how you go about addressing some of the issues that come up matter. So with that, when you are in the heat of the moment and you know you're emotionally flooded, you are beginning to find yourself shutting down, disconnecting, we want to give you the pause.
That's right. Point number 2.
Practice the pause. Take a moment to say to your partner, I'm really feeling like we're not going anywhere. I'm feeling emotionally flooded. I feel myself shutting down, or I feel like I'm just going to keep getting even more escalated in my feelings and emotions. And I know where this can take us. I think I want to pause. So when you do that and you step away and you're able to regulate your emotions to a place where you're calmer, then to come back and actually before you leave to say, let's come back in an hour, half hour, whatever that looks like, or even the next day, but set that time that you want to come back to, check in with your partner and actually do it.
And the important part here really is to ask for that pause. You're not, giving the other person a timeout. You need a timeout. You're really asking the person. As Michelle has said, just emotional flooding. I just need to pause. This is not rejection. It really is about me and what I need to do and process so that we can come back to have a really productive conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Number 3 is clean up your dirty fighting.
Ooh, yeah.
Because some of us will go there. We will call each other names. We will hit below the belt, say things like, well, you're just like your mother, or you're just like your father. And we know exactly what that means. We also will actually say, and threaten divorce, right? And say, well, you know what? Just go. And then the other person inevitably will say something like, well, fine, I'll go, I'll leave. Why are you with me, right? And you do an attack, and those are unhelpful. And sometimes the very conflict, whatever triggered that conflict in the moment, you might even forget what you're fighting about.
That's right.
And there's something called kitchen sinking. There's already stuff in the sink, and it's almost like you start with one thing and another thing, and it just all kind of piles up, and then it becomes this big dirty mess. And it just becomes a lot bigger than what you intended it to be. So part of just cleaning that up is practicing the pause, learning how to speak with I feel statements, right? I feel upset when you say this or when you do that. And then with that, some of us may actually need to learn emotional vocabulary. So we may need to expand that. And so those are some of the things that may help to clean up the pause. And you may actually need to talk with each other about what's okay and what's not okay, and creating healthy boundaries in the relationship when you're in conflict. So to say, let's do our best not to attack each other, not to call each other names, to curse at each other.
Don't use absolutes.
Yes.
Yeah, you always do.
Oh, yeah.
You never. Those are actually untrue, because there are times when we actually do things well or right, but in the heat of the moment, this is actually you're going on the offensive and you're attacking and using those offensive words. And the other thing that we would suggest is have this conversation about creating these parameters before you're in conflict. When things are okay, create them then, because in the midst of the conflict, there's no way you can create these parameters.
It's not going to work, for sure. So you know conflict is going to come. You know how you both fight. Talk about it when you're calm. Number 4. Go for it.
It's about ownership. Right? There were times in our marriage when we would be in the heat of the argument, and in my mind, I know definitively that there are parts that I need to own. But I will not. I will fight tooth and nail and whatever, to make sure that I am right. And the thing that we want to remind everybody, this is not a competition. In the conflict, it's not about a win or a losing situation. One of the most, I think, powerful parts of being in conflict and navigating well is when we are able to not just admit ownership, because in order for us to do that, we actually have to start processing and embracing the parts that we really need to be responsible for.
Absolutely. And I know that there have been times where I refused to take ownership because I didn't want to be wrong. That's just my pride and to be being so upset.
Yeah. And Michelle just said pride. It is pride, but there are these deep insecurities as well. And you're wrestling with the insecurities. So if I take ownership, it means that not just that I'm wrong, it means that there's something wrong with you, that I'm not good enough. And all of these lies start to really stand in the way of us.
Like you don't understand me.
Yeah. Those are all lies.
Yeah.
And finally, point number 5, we want to present to you this really significant principle. One of the most significant parts of addressing conflict, but I think really, really misunderstood, and it has to do with seeking and granting forgiveness.
Yeah, it's so significant that we actually want to spend some time in a different clip unpacking that a bit more. So this is pretty much it. I mean, there's so much more, but we hope that in being able to normalize conflict, that it's going to happen. We don't have to be afraid of it. And being able to practice the pause, as well as cleaning up the dirty fighting, taking ownership, and being able to grant and seek forgiveness, that those 5 things would be something that you remember that would really help you to do conflict well. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.